Welcome to Overtime on Inferno, your weekly roundup of all the big stories in CSGO, quicker than Ents can go from first to worst.
Nice.
If you could rate us, review us at the end of the episode, that would really help us. I'm Logan. This is Aizyesque. Let's get into it. We have a very short cast of items today. It is, in fact, 4 things.
Yeah. Until we just think of something else and add it on at the end, like we normally do.
5 things.
Yeah, there we go.
Harry, Sponge, Henry G, and Stunna just dropped a really...
Look, it's about as good as Amelia Holt's song, but
it's a rap song.
But at least this one is, I hope, satirical.
Yeah, to us it feels purposely bad.
I'm pretty sure Harry and Hugo's not on it, but I'm pretty sure Harry doesn't do anything if it isn't wrapped in at least 3 layers of irony.
I think that if Hugo was on it, it would have been too good. I think that's why Hugo isn't there. I think it would have just been too good of a song if he was there.
You're welcome to hold that opinion. Your opinion does not reflect my own.
Has my opinion ever reflected yours?
I can't think of many times it has.
Let's talk about the first bit. Story number uno of the week. Config will not be playing in the RMRs for Europe because of his fractured ankle. Broken ankle.
I think broken ankle was the verbiage used, but I think fractured is probably more likely. Judging by the fact it was kind of like a complicated fracture.
Yeah, it seems to be enough that it's complicated ankle fracture is the specific wording.
It's all very odd.
Yeah.
The way they've talked about it, the fact that it's just like, oh yeah, no, it's just like a complicated ankle break, so we can't play Counter-Strike, and it's not really explained.
Yeah. So the guess I think that all of us are working on, because I know that you guys are working on newsletter today and working on stories for said newsletter, is that he basically, it's not that he can't play Counter-Strike, it's that travel for him will be nigh impossible, and because they have to go play the RMR somewhere.
Traveling with a fractured ankle isn't impossible, though.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying from their point of view that my guess is that they're saying travel's going to be terrible, so it's going to be impossible. So we're just going to bring Mistum, who's the sub.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't buy it. I remain unconvinced. I don't know what's going on, but last time he broke a body part, he left the team. I don't think it is like that, and I think he did genuinely break his wrist last time. I mean, he showed enough proof, and complexity seemed to say, yeah, he actually did, and then he got the offer. Like, it was unfortunate, but I don't know, man. It's kind of strange. It's just, I don't know. It's just like, it doesn't really make sense without an explanation, and they haven't given an explanation. If they'd said like, oh, he decided that travel was going to be really difficult and that he wouldn't be able to give like full focus to the team, he's going to have a lot of surgeries, I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. They kind of just went, oh yeah, he's broke his ankle, so he can't play.
Yeah.
And then just left.
The entire TLDR chat was like, I'm pretty sure you don't use your ankle to play Counter-Strike.
Maybe that's why Charlotte haven't been very good recently.
They haven't been using their ankle.
I think I saw somebody on Twitter saying like when he broke his wrist, he just started using his feet. Oh my God. And now he's broke his ankle. He doesn't know how to play.
So yeah, Config broke his ankle, and now he's not playing Counter-Strike for a current bit. They're replacing him with Mistum, I believe.
Yeah, I know nothing about this kid. Absolutely nothing. So I'm kind of interested.
He plays for Astralis Talent. That is the extent in which I know. Other players from Astralis Talent, Fessor, I believe is currently there.
Fessor left. No,
Fessor was there. Yes.
Yeah,
I believe Yabby was on Astralis Talent as well.
Sounds about right.
So decent players have been on Astralis Talent. It's not like a bunch of no names. Guys got 0.95 rating playing against.
That's not good.
No.
That's kind of worrying.
It's just a little worrying
because it means that it must have been bad enough that they were like, all right, we have to find a replacement on short notice.
And did you see? So jumping ahead, Australis Talent has to get a replacement for Mister,
Which
and that
Cajun B.
replacement is Cajun B. And wouldn't it make more sense for Cajun B, the guy who's played in a million RMRs or minors, whatever you want to call him today, and who's gotten to a major before and maybe a little washed comparatively, but also brings like veterancy the same way Config does? Like,
I don't agree with that.
If you have to sub in a player, I mean,
I'd rather sub in one of the talent players, because the idea is that these players will play in your first team in the future. So you might as well, like, if Config isn't there, you're basically saying, look, we're probably not going to do that well anyway. We might as well blood one of the talented kids and like say, here's a blank canvas, show us what the fuck you can do. And be like, because the quickest way to find out whether or not one of your talented youngsters is good enough for the main team is fucking throw them in and see see if they swim. Like, throw them in the water, see if they swim. And that's exactly what they're going to do.
Do you know who's actually on the Australis Talent team that you would know? Because
I did look a minute ago. It's Christou.
Yeah,
Christou's good.
North player.
He's a decent player. Like
my assumption of why they're not bringing him up,
he's an AWPer.
He's been there for a month.
He's also an AWPer. Traditionally, I think North tried to turn him into a lurker, but
but on the other hand, could Australis' AWPer situation get worse by adding another AWPer?
Yes, if you had two AWPers who weren't as good as their previous AWPer, that would be worth just having one.
Nah, I don't believe it. Okay, let's move on to our next bit. The RMR subs have come out today. I have to go find the actual message. The RMR subs.
There's an article on it, but the biggest one is that, or the most interesting one is that Lecro is G2's sub.
Also, Snacks' Vitality subs.
Yeah, he's friends with Spinks. I guess he replaced Spinks on Ents, didn't he? Maybe that's what it is. Like, maybe it's like, last time you stood in and played all of Spinks' roles, you were great. What if we just did it again if Spinks can't get in? That genuinely might be it. They're like, we know that you're a good, like, Spinks replacement. You play the same positions and you did it really well. So
I don't know, why would it be Spinks that they're concerned about?
I would assume for visa reasons, right? That was the last time.
That would make sense. But
Israel's a little bit strange for visas.
It's taking where's the RMR taking place? It's in like Malta or something, right?
Well, the NA RMR in Stockholm.
Yeah.
I don't know where the EU one is. I would assume.
I
don't know.
Find out.
I actually don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. It is in Malta. Yeah, it is Malta. It
is Malta, and they have to be in Malta for Pro League anyway. So
yeah. True. So there should be no issues.
Yeah.
Maybe they just wanted Snacks. They just like Snacks. Like, do you want to be on the team? Do you want a jersey? And he was like, yeah. What? And they asked him what his size was, and they were like, okay, we're gonna have to find a bigger one.
So, there's a couple actually important-ish ones here. Lecro on the G2 one is kind of an important bit there, because that's a little weird. It's a little. My guess is because he was previously signed to the Dignitas roster, he couldn't act as a sub before.
Mm-hmm. And now he's one of the better subs you can get. Yeah,
he's now a better sub. Sin from Big, who's the Big Academy player.
He's the good one, right? Yeah.
He's really, really good. He's there. Thomas is the Bench Tiros one, which I find funny that there is a bench player on Bench Tiros' bench.
Yeah, that is. You are properly benched at that point.
Yeah,
you are benched by benched heroes, bro. Gade on Heroic's interesting.
Yeah, Gade on Heroic is kind of interesting. I think it's interesting in the fact that NATO Sapphics is not subbing for anybody, and historically NATO has been Heroic's sub. I think that's my.
They had Kiebi before he came back as well.
That's true. But prior to Kirby, it was NATO. So to me, that kind of feels like they're just going through the Danish market and seeing, hey, who's available to maybe sub.
Yeah, it's probably a case of Gade's probably like, yeah, look, I've got nothing on. I don't have a team. Remind people that I exist. Like, it's kind of mutually beneficial.
I have two quick NA ones. So EG has Viz as a sub.
Yeah, I like that.
So it's pulling from one of the other teams, which you'd expect. I saw questions starting to get raised of, does this mean that he is the next one up to the main team? Should someone from the main team have to go? Because it previously was Rush as the sub. Because you have to remember, Rush and Stanislaw are now on EG Black. So
oh god,
food for thought. Is that Rush is not the person, and it is Viz. And the last one I want to talk about is actually the lack of a substitute on Liquid, which to me says something's getting done with Yukindar.
Okay.
Because if something wasn't getting done with Yukindar,
they would need a sub. I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Now, yeah, that's interesting, actually.
You and I talked about this before the show really quickly, is that I think there's a lot of teams without substitutes, and I think most teams without substitutes are just, the coach will play. The coach will be their substitute. Like, Complexity doesn't have a substitute. It would just be TC would play.
Yeah.
Obviously, for most teams, that doesn't really work. Liquid happens to have Daps as the coach, so it kind of... Daps is good enough that he can sub for a team at this point. But even if you don't put a sub there, it's odd to not have a person there because of the volatility of Yukindar existing, because he's not signed to a contract on Liquid.
The volatility of him existing.
Well, no,
he can bust at any point.
Well, he's a free agent. He's like long-term sub for this team right now, and is absolutely officially not signed as far as we know.
He might have a short-term, like month-to-month contract.
Yeah, so to me, that says something. We know something's going on because Steve has said something's going on.
Yeah,
but to me, that puts they're obviously putting faith into the fact that, okay, something is really going on here.
One last interesting one is, do you remember Fox of FaZe Clan?
Do.
He is 0 Nation sub.
That would make sense. You can speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
There's not many Portuguese players, and most of them are in FTW.
To be honest, I didn't remember Fox was still playing. I thought he retired a while ago.
He may have.
Okay. That actually doesn't stop you playing for one of the best Brazilian teams, because FNX came out of retirement and he was not good.
All right, let's chat about the Pro League Season 16 groups. We are in our penultimate episode about actual group stage stuff. We've been on this for the last many weeks. We're close.
Heroic aren't as bad as we said they were.
Yeah, so Group C, Mouse Sports, Heroic, Complexity, Astralis, and Heat. We did say this was going to be kind of a brawl of a group. Not in the way we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, this was a mad group.
We expected this to be like Heroic, Astralis, Ents getting out, right? Ents pretty handily. And we expected there to be a little bit of a fight with Mouz trying to get in.
I think you were pretty high on Mouse, actually. I think
I was fairly high on Mouse. I had faith. I have such defended said faith. Wrong team, my bad. But Mouse Sports finished first in Group C.
Yeah. No, and I tell you what, that is as good a debut as you can imagine for the exertion.
And like a real good 2-0.
Yeah.
Like a real good 2-0.
Yeah, they were.
Like 2-0s across the board.
Good.
On Ent and Heroic. They got 0-2'd by Astralis, but they lost to... They took... Complexity and Heat both took a map off them in the waning bits after they were confirmed for playoffs already. Heroic only lost to Mouse. They got through. And the bright spot of North America, Complexity.
Yeah.
They got through.
We've been taught, like, when this team was made, I was, like, so high on them, and I felt like such a fucking idiot. For so long, I was like, how was I duped into thinking, like, these players were good? And I was like, either I'm just stupid, which wasn't a possibility I was willing to entirely discount, or I'd got it wrong on like one of them. And I got it very wrong on Junior. I thought he was a lot better than he was, because you put Holzerk in that team, who is a good but not amazing AWPer.
He's not a superstar AWPer, but he's obviously an upgrade.
And all of a sudden, when the AWPer isn't just missing shots on people he should kill, the team functions a hell of a lot better, obviously. And you get to see that like Grim and Floppy can play this game. Like
we've been saying these things for months.
I know.
And we've just had
I
zero.
was starting to not believe myself. I was like, is Floppy just bad? Like, is Grim just not as good as I think he is? Like, what's going on?
No,
like,
we just had no proof, and we just, like every North American fan, just had unadulterated love and like faith that these people were good with absolutely zero statistics to back it up. And we moved Hallzerk into the team, and now we have statistics to back it up.
Yeah,
like
they actually decent.
How many complexity players were like top in clutches at this event? It was like the top 3 were all complexity players or some shit.
I have been saying for a while, and I've said this to a friend. My friend was like, "Oh, who do you think is like the best clutches in the world?" And I think Floppy. I had like Floppy fourth. I had him like 3rd or 4th, and he was like, "Fucking course you do." And
Floppy's up there,
but he's legitimately like a great clutcher. Like he's a brilliant clutcher. Yeah, I don't know. They're just a completely different team when their AWPer doesn't miss.
And here's the thing. Their AWPer is still not the most non-American on the team. There is a South African, and Hallzerk's basically American.
Yeah, that he has a very American name. One thing we do need to bring up from this group is Frozen, because Frozen has not been good since the inception of like the Mouse Academy project. He has not been particularly good. He's not been bad, but before it, I think he's actually has an MVP from a pro league.
He does. I believe he does. Yeah.
The pro league they won. I'm pretty sure he was MVP. He was lights out. Like they put him back in
like works.
Yeah, they put him in basically what Rops's roles used to be, I believe. I'd have to go back and watch to make sure.
I think they put him in Bimus's roles.
Okay.
I think that's why what happened with the switch with Exertion coming out, because people were saying that he was going to like hit with Frozen, is Frozen wanted to move away from Frozen roles and move towards Bemus's roles. So they moved in a Frozen-like player in Exertion who has taken Frozen's roles and done really well with them, and Frozen has just done what Bemus could not do in his own roles in that kind of lurk angle.
I seem to remember Bemus certainly near the end of his tenure on Mouse being an aggressor, like being not necessarily always first man in, but second man in.
Maybe they started moving the way that the roles were. I don't.
Whatever they've done, bringing Exertion in has just made Frozen 10 times better. And I guess that makes sense, because when your entry fragger or your aggressive players are actually getting you into late round situations, you can show off like what you can do, and Frozen excels in those. I mean, it's in the name, right? Like ice in his veins when it comes down to it. Like he is stone cold.
And it's not like Exertion is baiting himself for Frozen to look better.
No,
I want to make that really clear. Like Exertion looks really fucking good.
Yeah, because and he creates space by just winning duels that he shouldn't win. Very similar to Patsy. The way Patsy is the best player on Team Spirit. It's not particularly close, because he consistently puts up high ratings whilst just making a shit ton of space for other players. Like Magix is a good player, for example, but if he didn't have a player as destructive as Patsy, and before him Mia, he's not going to look as good. Device, great player. Without Dupree opening up rounds, he's not as deadly. Cold Zero without Fur, he's just not the same. Like, to have great closers, you need great openers, and they finally found. I say finally found. Everyone knew Exertion was this player, but for some reason they just couldn't find a reason to put him in.
You know what? Here's the thing. I'm of the forgiving type. If Mouse Sports at this point have put in Exertion and gone, okay, maybe we were wrong from before, and they start doing really well, I'll forgive them for not putting Exertion in earlier.
Yeah.
Right? Hindsight 2020, like we can all say shit from externally, but like we don't know what's going on internally on their teams, and like that's fine. But as long as we all got to the same goal at the end, it's the same.
Sure,
our math worked out the same.
But if you go back a year ago and listen to this podcast, you will hear us say they should keep Frozen and put in the Mouse and XT team. Now, they've done that very slowly. They've kept Dexter of Asuhi, which you debate amongst yourselves.
Hey, you know what? It's working. I'm not going to question things right now.
Sure, but everyone knew Torji, Exertion, to an extent, JDC could play at this level. I don't understand people who are consistently like, oh yeah, but they've never played at tier 1. How do you know they're not going to be good? How do you know they're going to be good at tier 1? Because they're really good. Like, it's not like
good players.
Yeah, like it's not that ridiculous a jump from Academy League to tier 1, where like,
especially when
if you win it 3 times if you win it 3 times in a row and you are playing in tier 2 tournaments and doing well, these players can play at this level. Like,
yeah,
it was obvious. Like, when people were telling me, oh, Monacy's untested in tier 1, and you look at him,
smurfing on tier 2.
You're like, bro, like, there's no way he isn't good. And you kind of felt the same watching Exertion, and you're like, why did it take this long? And I get what you're saying, like, oh yeah, at least they got there eventually. But why did it take this long? Imagine if he had an extra year under his belt now, when people were saying he wasn't ready for tier 1. Do you know what got him ready for tier 1?
Being in tier 1.
Yeah, nothing has changed in that last year that's made him significantly better. He just had to wait.
I think they won another We Play in that time. But
yeah, it's like just like the only way he was ever going to adapt to this level is to play at it, and now they've put in there. It's like, oh yeah, actually he was just ready the whole time. But you could have found this out so much earlier.
Again, I don't pretend to know what's going on internally of teams. There may have been contract issues with other players and buyouts and ways of like prevent. I don't know what goes on. If I knew what went on, that would be great. But
the strange thing is, according to Mouz and then a lot of the players, Exertion's a very vocal player. Like, he was essentially a second caller on NXT. And they cut NBK because they were like, oh yeah, like, he's the second caller, but we want somebody else. And they brought up JDC, and it's like, yeah, role-wise, sure. But if you wanted a big voice, because apparently, Dexter's probably, I can imagine him being quite quiet, and maybe he just bring up the guy who was second calling. It's also strange to me. Like, I don't know, man.
All right.
He's great though.
Quick on the bottom half of this group. We talked a lot about the top half. Ents did not look good.
No.
I'm gonna chalk it up to teething issues right now. They just brought new players in. Here's the problem. Here's the thing though. They're gonna be in the RMR in a week. I think. I'd assume so.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, no, they're in the RMR in a week, and if they look the same, then we have to start talking about it. I know that the roster move just happened.
It's very short, but so
I know that it's really short, but there's a lot of Counter-Strike that's happened now because they played an entire group of Pro League, so that's five best of 3 officials. They'll be playing up until RMR and probably boot camping into it. If you don't see, like, they lost to Heat, the only team they beat was Heat. That was it. They lost 2-0 to Heroic, Mouse, Astralis, and Complexity. Like, so, I'm not here to like I know we've said that Complexity is good and they've gotten better, but like on paper, Ents should beat Complexity every day of the week.
Yeah, I agree.
They're dealing with the same issues to a degree with bringing Halzerk in. So, like,
I agree, but I will give 2 counterpunches. That one, Snappy has proved himself that if you give him time, he can build something. When they originally put that roster together, it did take a little time for them to get used to it. And a secondary point would be that the team was built around Spinks, and it will now probably be built around Sun Pius, which is going to require quite a few changes, I would imagine. They're very sort of like different. Obviously, they use different guns. I mean, that's kind of a big thing. And I think that will take a little bit of time to sort out. So I'm willing to give Ents a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, purely because I think Snappy is the type of person who, given time, actually can fix problems. But it's certainly worrying when you see them like lose 2-0 to Astralis, for example.
Yeah. Astralis did not look good this
week. Astralis haven't looked good for months.
Yeah, and yeah. We don't need to touch on the Charlotte because we've talked about Charlotte a million times.
Yeah.
Last thing in the group, Heat didn't play well. But like again, as we've said, every group has their like you're going to be the designated sixth place in the group. It's kind of just how it works out.
I feel like Heat signed the wrong player. I think I said this at the time, that it made more sense for Jax to go to Falcons and Masuta to go to Heat, because Heat were a good team who lacked star power, and Falcons lacked an experienced head. Mm-hmm. And then Falcons went and got both because they got NBK as well. And then I was like, okay, this team's going to be the best team in France. Heat signed Jax, who is a good player, but he's not star power at the level. He's played at the level above, but he wasn't a star when he played at the level above. Masuta was. Hamanek's kind of similar though, isn't he? He's a glue player at this level. There's like the French stars, Zaiwu, and Zaiwu, I think.
Formerly Kenny,
but like who else is there? Now,
there's no French teams. I don't mean that to be a dick. Like, just literally, Vitality is the only French team, and there's only 2 French players left on it.
I think the only other players who are like considered sort of star role players would be Masuta and possibly Haji.
Yeah,
maybe Maka, but
yeah,
I don't know. He are a strange team. They've been close to being good for a while, but I just don't think the Jax move is the one that's going to push them any higher.
Yeah, I'd agree. All right, let's talk about the important matches. The North American group, and I'm only jokingly saying that. The blue group. Every team here is blue, other than Furia.
Yeah.
So speaking of Furia, we are recording this, by the way, prior to the Liquid EG game on Thursday. So the Cloud9 Eternal Fire, Cloud9 Eternal Fire has gone on, and Furia Movistar has gone on.
I'd just like to take a moment to talk about Jantares. Eternal Fire are 0-2.
The floor.
Eternal Fire are 0-2 in this group. Jantares is the 3rd highest rated player at Pro League. The guy is absolutely destroying people and losing. I actually just don't know. Like, you can talk about, like the amount of times Blame F loses when he's like one of the highest rated players in Seven. It's like there's always an asterisk. I don't think it's even fair to give an asterisk to Jantares. He's taking like 30% opening duels, winning them at 65% of the time, and he's the 3rd highest rated player at the event, and his team has won 1 map of 5.
Yeah.
What is he supposed to do? What is actually he supposed to do? This is superstar level performance from a guy who has been up and down over his career, but has shown flashes that he can actually be a superstar.
Yeah, no, he's gonna be like top. He's gonna be top 5 in rating over the entire event, and his team won't make playoffs.
He just does this from time to time. And people kind of forget, because there's always the memes about Jantares because he was meant to be really, really good, and then he went to big and he was inconsistent. But people forget that there were times in that big lineup where he was terrifying. He was terrifying. He can win games on his own sometimes, but he's winning games on his own and they're not even winning. It's so weird. Like, he actually cannot do more than this. And He dropped 30 frags in a 16-11 loss and 28 in a 16-12 loss against Cloud9 today. He dropped 58 kills and his team got 23 rounds in a best of 3. What is he supposed to do? I feel so bad for him. He's been the best player in the server in 4 of the maps they've played.
Yeah, no, it's been rough. On the other hand, I think that this is kind of like. So Xantaros put himself here to a degree because he literally made this team. So I think he's definitely in this with the understanding of, yes, I will have to carry Woxix washed op through this series, right? But they're like Someone saves Antares from himself, please.
He had 122 ADR.
That's
plus 8 in opening kill ratio. 58 kills, 12 assists. His team lost the best of 3. This team is fucking doomed. If Xantares playing at this level cannot win, seriously, Xantares on this form is one of the scariest players in the world. He will he plays like this against evil geniuses. He will rip them to shreds. He will annihilate evil geniuses, and it will be close, but Eternal Fire will win because Emor and Major just can't shoot back. They just don't shoot back.
Yeah. All right.
I feel so bad for him, man.
Let's talk about the other teams here. We'll talk about the top 3 in a moment. I want to talk about Movistar. Yesterday, it looked like Martinez was the second coming of Sampaio.
He's not that good.
Yeah,
he's fine. I mean, he wasn't a massive standout. Standard slightly below.
Yeah. But it does seem that the Movistar team has taken a kind of hit of losing Sampaio, which, to be fair, I think any team would when they lose their star player like that.
Yeah. It's more than just like losing him as a player. It's like losing him as a figure.
Yeah, he was the guy.
Yeah, right? He's like, we're struggling. Give Sampaio the AWP, he'll make something happen. And now it's like, we're struggling and we don't know what to do. I mean, Mopos just looks like a completely different player. He was devastating at times as a very aggressive player on this team when they were good. And he's their lowest rated player at the event. That just... when Mopos is their lowest rated player, they aren't going to win. Simple as that.
Let's talk about the top 3 teams. I know I'm skipping Evil Geniuses. They're EG. They haven't played their second match yet. I don't expect them to win against Liquid. Let's talk about Liquid.
Liquid will smack them.
Liquid look like they're continuing their decent form. I know that beating like Movistar 2-1 isn't like the greatest, but they look like they may actually be a top 10 team. Like they look like they may be good.
Top 10 is massively undershooting.
Oh, I'm purposely trying to be a little.
Yeah, I think they're probably the 3rd best team in the world.
I mean, HLTV ranks them as 3 right now.
Yeah, I think
I believe it, but like I need proof. I need statistics before I say that.
Well, all right. The only teams below them who might be better are G2.
Yeah,
it's self-explanatory.
Yeah,
Mouz ? They might be good, but that might just be their group wasn't really that tough in retrospect.
Yeah, but that number 3 ranking, by the way, is prior to any pro league stuff.
But I also think it's fair. Vitality, I'm not convinced by yet.
Nope.
Heroic look awful. Cloud9 mediocre.
I don't think anyone
Heroic don't look awful. That's harsh.
I don't think anyone would like call us insane for saying top 5.
Yeah,
like definite. Even if they're 5, I think that Yukindar has reignited this team. And I sound like a broken record because I feel like I've said that for the last like 7 episodes of the show, but it is honestly impressive what has happened since they made 2 moves. They moved Dren and replaced him for Daps, and they removed Stewie. I don't even know who they removed at this point. They removed Shocks.
Yeah, that was
Shocks and replaced him with Yukindar. Shocks that I've blocked out the Shocks era from my head.
Yeah,
like
probably for the best. I mean, he's not even. He came back to NA on Apex for Philadelphia. It still didn't look good.
Yep.
So I find it very interesting actually that he left Liquid because of all the travel to and from NA, and then he's like joins the European teams. Do you want to go frag? Not massively, no. Yukinda's the 4th best player at the event so far. I mean, he's played 1 game. It'll even out. Well, actually, it won't. He's about to play Evil Geniuses. He's about to have like a 2.5 rating.
Yeah, he's going to be the best player in the event.
He's going to farm.
So Cloud9 and Furia are the other two teams in the group. Furia look like they may exist, but they've also played what I would consider the two worst teams in the group. So they played Eternal Fire and Movistar Riders, so I hold for Furia for right now, because the way Furia plays is they absolutely every single time should beat every team that's lower than them because of just constant aggression and art being art. It's the question of will their odd, and I say odd in a very loving way here, style work against the better drilled, higher, like ultra tier 1 top 10 teams.
Fury are like the only team who I genuinely ever think massively fluctuate without roster moves.
Yes, I agree.
Very few teams, most teams sort of plateau and will sometimes like peak above or peak below, but they have sort of a general through line of performance regardless of, without changing rosters. Furia have made like 2 roster changes in 4 years, and they're just like this all the time. They're like up and down constantly. Like one day they're the 4th best team in the world, the next day they're like lose to a mixed team with the stupidest name you can imagine in NA qualifiers, 0-2, and Art has like a 0.4 rating. You're like, how are you the same guy who was like shitting on people a minute ago? Like, I don't get it.
So, interesting point that I haven't actually thought of until right now. Furia signed their new contracts roughly midway through 2019. It looks like they signed it when they brought Henny in, which was September. Since that point, they have stayed like strongly in the top 20. And everyone at that point said, no way you're giving these guys who've barely been tested and who just made a big roster move, no way you're giving these guys 5-year contracts. And Furia did. And I hate to be the one to say it, but it kind of seems like it may be paying off.
Sort of. Yeah, I mean, they've been the best team in their region for that long. They were kind of screwed over by NA dying, I think. Had they not, they might have actually been consistently up there. They haven't won loads, I will say that.
No,
but certainly from a brand perspective, their brand values much higher.
They have kept this core of Art, Yuri, and K-Serrato the entire time, and the core has continued to perform. And if you're signing a 5-year deal with somebody, you're not saying you're going to win us everything over the next 5 years. You're saying you're going to be the consistent core to everything over the next 5 years, and they are doing that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, K-Serrato just always can turn it on. Yuri can always just turn it on. Like at any event, they can just be the best player at it.
Yeah. I feel like this may be the first team I've ever said with long contracts that actually make sense. Like, I
don't know what contract G2 gave to Monacy, but if that was less than 5 years, then they screwed up.
I'd assume Simple has a standing every year contract renewal, but it's just to give him more money because he keeps winning them tournaments.
That doesn't seem like a good business plan, but
I mean, if you're Navi,
just keep having more money.
If he keeps winning more tournaments,
I don't think Navi pay that much. I could be wrong. I think Simple's just there because he likes Navi, and he likes playing in CIS teams.
My bet is Navi also has gotten a boost in revenue because of Simple.
Oh yeah,
and so he reaps rewards directly because of that. I would agree.
Oh yeah. He'll have bonuses and all sorts. Like, yeah, he'll get paid for every MVP or something.
Let's talk about the most important. Last bit, we have one more CIS team to talk about. Let's talk about the important CIS team in this group, which is Cloud9, who this morning released the polos.
I don't care.
Okay, you cannot care, but they now have polos towards jerseys, which is fantastic.
Good for them.
Okay. They're beating people they should. They beat EG, they beat Eternal Fire. Remember everything I said about Furia on them beating the 2 worst teams in the group? They beat also the 2 worst teams of the group. So
the other also 2 worst teams in the group.
Yeah, there's 3 let's be clear here. Before we touch this group, before we go into this group, there are 3 teams making the playoffs and 3 teams not. Either set could be in either order, but no sets will mix.
Yeah, it feels very like prescriptive to say this. Like this is how it's going to happen, but that is kind of how it's going to happen. So
this is the group where you can say this is how that's going to happen.
After two games, presuming EG don't pull off a miracle win over Liquid, it will literally be 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 0-2, 0-2, 0-2. Yeah, EG, Movistar, and Eternal Fire will all be 0-2.
Yeah, Yep.
Eternal Fire look the most like winning a game. Maybe Movistar. But
either way,
both of them seem to be powered by one individual.
I mean, they got to play each other, so the group won't be even throughout the entire time.
No, of course, they're not all going to not win. That would be impressive. They really would be the worst teams then if they played each other and still both lost.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I this group seems very cut and dry to me. No other group has seemed this cut and dry.
Yeah, I agree.
So those are our predictions. I think that's where we're going to end it. We have playoffs next week. Next week is going to be a little bit of we'll talk about next week. Next week we'll have more scheduling issues.
Next week I'm okay. The week after I'm away.
Yeah, we're starting to get to rough time in podcast land schedule wise. We'll figure it out. You guys will continue to have podcasts. Worst comes to worst we'll replace one of us forever with naps.
Replace me with a cutout.
You know what? I do a really terrible British accent that could be just replaced.
Oh God! I'm not getting into this. British accent isn't a thing.
Please rate and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Wherever you get your podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at ReadTLDR, at Aizyesque, and at Mechatronic with a 3 and a 0. Tune in again next week where we'll talk about things, stuff, and more things.
Agree.